We have a guest who's joining us in the studio. She is Harriet Chiggai. Harriet is the President's advisor on gender matters. And that is a cabinet level position. We've been asking ourselves, what does that mean? She's here. She'll tell us what that means. Let's welcome our guest, CT, with the day's proverb.
Yes, our final proverb for this week is from the country of Tanzania, as have been all the other proverbs for this week. A stone once seen will not damage the whole.
A stone once seen.
No, one sees.
Oh,
yes.
A stone one sees will not damage the whole.
Yes.
Because when you see it, then you're not going to...
Yeah, you're not going to clobber it with your hoe.
Plow into it.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, what are they saying? Open your eyes?
That actually seems to be the gist of it. That you may see. There are situations that are obvious and clear, and if only you will heed, then whatever damage that the situation may portend will be averted. Yes.
Harriet, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
This proverb that City has just given you is a Tanzanian proverb. Okay? A stone one sees will not damage the whole. What's your interpretation of it?
Well, I hadn't really thought about it, but a stone one sees damage the whole.
Will not.
Will not damage the whole. Basically, I would look at it from a societal space. That the damage that can be effected by a small item can actually be resolved by not putting yourselves in any situation that can aggravate the situation. So I will look at it from more of a societal space.
Avoid it.
Avoid it, yes.
Make sure that you avoid it if you can.
Yes.
All right. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
What is your title?
In terms of my name,
No.
let me just give my full names first.
Okay, tuanze majina ya
Harriet,
M-Pesa.
Yes, Harriet Igonanga Chiggai, and you can send M-Pesa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then?
My title is President's Advisor on Women's Rights. You remember when during the campaign, the president actually made a promise to Kenyan women that he was going to establish a women's rights agency that will sit right in his executive office. The reason as to why the women of this country made that decision through the Women's Charter that the president himself signed, which was a promise to the Kenyan women, was to ensure that women's rights issues that for a long time have been ignored can now actually get the attention of the presidency himself. So that is what my office is all about. We work on various issues that affect women. And these issues are cut crossing when it comes to health. You'll realize there are so many health issues that are affecting women, which for a long time, no one knows where they are sitting. So then, currently we are working on universal health coverage. So how then can we structure that program so that it can cater for women issues that for many years have been ignored? For instance, we have high maternal deaths. And when you do statistics, you're not really able to tell what is the reason as to why we are losing so many women during childbirth. What is the reason as to why we are losing so many children during childbirth? You see, if you leave these issues not attended to or not focused, we are not able to actually address them. So my work basically is to do the review. We backstop the ministries. We are able to even engage with CSOs on matters health so that we can be able to advise the government, the president, on what exactly do we need to do so that we can improve health in as far as women and children are concerned. When you look at environment issues, climate change, what is the impact of climate change on women? Should we wait for civil society to hold placards to tell us what we need to do? Yet these are things that we can actually be able to do them from policy perspective. So those are the issues that we are dealing with. Right now, you've seen HIV and AIDS. We have an influx on HIV and AIDS. The question is why? How then do we address issues to do with teen pregnancies? Do we have proper data? And with data, can we be able to address these issues up to the grassroots level? GBV. For many years, we've been discussing about GBV. Previous governments have also put measures to ensure that we reduce GBV. But the question then we are asking ourselves, why do we still, in this day and age, still talking about matters gender violence? And even as we speak right now, GBV now on men has gone up. There's one issue that we are not talking about, and those are children who are being sodomized, not only in this city, but all over the country. I was in Kipkelion last weekend, and I was also surprised that sodomy on children has really gone up. So these are issues that, for as long as we are sitting in the boardroom, we'll never get to know what is happening.
Yeah.
But when I remember one of my friends, Tabitha, told me when I got into office, wear rubber shoes. Put on your rubber shoes, let's go to the ground, so that you get to appreciate when we come to you and tell you we have this problem, you actually get to picture, to visualize, and actually see what is happening. And they took me to Mukuru. That was my first session that I went. And I was really saddened to find that out of 1,658 reported cases, 121 were sodomized boys between the ages of 6 to about 13. And we did a simple mathematics, and we said, do 121. These are reported. We have cases which are not reported.
Yep.
Multiply that by a year, by 12.
Yep.
Multiply that by 10 years. Those are damaged young men we are having in this country. What does that mean? You've lost a whole generation. So we have so many issues that are affecting the society that we don't get to see them or meet face to face with them at the highest level until you actually get to see them by yourselves. You get to get out to the field and get to understand these things. Because if I come and tell you GBV is very bad, you'll ask me, what do you mean? You'll actually ask me in this day and age, because in your mind, it's unthinkable. But right now, GBV has even escalated. Let me address the issue of female genital mutilation. In as much as it's a criminal offense in this country, we are now seeing cases where I was in Kisumu the other day. I went up to Migori and those environs. What we are gathering is, it is a criminal offense in Kenya, it's a criminal offense in Tanzania, but to go around the laws that we have put in place, we are now taking these children across the border or right at the border. We do the cut and we bring them back. We are also seeing situations whereby the midwives, they call the midwives or the perpetrators of this offense, are now mutilating kids at birth. And the society doesn't understand one thing, and that is why education is very important. That when we violate young women in that level, we're actually creating a whole bunch of Kenyans who are mentally ill, and we just don't get to know that.
We're not seeing, we're not connecting the dots.
We are not connecting the dots. Where does this violence start? If you do a search and if you check these communities, you'll find you have a high rate of women who are always angry. Ask yourself why. They'll tell you that is our nature. But no, what you're not understanding is that there's a mental issue and there's a connecting dot to when that happened.
All those things happen. So Harriet, this is the job that you have.
Yes.
To advise the president on this.
Yes.
The president said yours is a cabinet level position. What does that mean?
That means that I have full packs of a cabinet secretary. It means I can address issues from a ministerial point of view. I have the leeway to make certain decisions. I have the leeway to go to the field.
You have staff under you?
Yes, we are in the process of putting in place the agency, and it is work in progress. So yes, I have staff under me.
Do you sit in cabinet?
Not yet, but it's work in progress.
Work in progress.
Yes.
I'm asking that because the president has also created a ministry called the Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, and there's a principal secretary for gender and affirmative action. How different is that from your cabinet level, from a ministerial level position?
You know very well we have the gender desk, which is the PS gender, and her work generally cuts across board. The boys, gender is not about women. Let's be clear about that. Mine is women's rights. So you come to realize that there are some activities they're able to do. There are some activities we are doing from my level, but we backstop and we work together. So it doesn't mean that you're disjointed completely. And you also realize that this current government, the running call is we must work together as one. So my work cuts across all ministries. When it comes to labor, you'll see there's an issue there relating to women's rights issues. When you go to forestry, the same. When you go to health, the same. When you go to... So mine is, I'm concentrating more on the women's rights, not cross-cutting gender. But having said that, we also backstop the ministries. You find if there's anything that we need to do together, we work together. Yeah.
Is there no risk of like a clash in terms of you and your ministerial level office are handling a certain issue, and the Ministry of Gender and Affirmative Action is also focusing on certain other issues? Because the issues about women and the minorities and gender have previously been handled by this gender desk at the ministry level. So what exactly is being removed from that to come to your office?
Well, I wouldn't really say there's anything that is being removed. You'll realize ministries have, for instance, when they're doing their budget, there are key thematic areas that they want to concentrate on within that budget cycle. The question then is, where are the gaps in terms of policy? Where are the gaps in terms of engagements, even with the international community? And that's where we come in to backstop them. You realize every other day there are women rights issues that keep emerging. So how then do we address those issues? Should we wait for the next budget cycle? The answer is no. Like right now, teenage pregnancy, the DHS report that came out the other day is now an issue that the government must now address. So with us bringing it to the attention of the presidency, he then can direct which programs should then run. If it's a need that we need to adjust the budget so that we can address the same issue, even better. Right now, we are running the 2/3 Constitution Amendment Bill. You saw the directive from the President to Parliament and Senate for them to start having the discussions. Yesterday, we had a very good engagement with women leaders in this country. And the ministry was also present. So for me, there's really no clash. We are more of putting our efforts together so that we can address these issues wholesomely. If you look at the Women's Charter that was signed by His Excellency, the President, you'll actually see most of the issues. Key in point was GBV, top of the table. Yeah, that is something that the ministry is focusing on. And we actually signed that by 2026 we should have eradicated GBV. So then my office, let's say on GBV, will be coming to say, in the last 10 years, we've been having these discussions on GBV. Why is it then that we are not able to solve these issues up to the grassroots level? So we are then trying to identify where are the gaps, because CSOs are working on that. The ministry has been working on the same. The question then is, where is the gap? In my few trips around the country, I visited Makueni. You'll be surprised that 50% of crime in Makueni is GBV. And when we are talking about GBV, it's just not women. I said even boys are in there. Now, if the police station is telling you that 50% of our crime rate in Makueni is GBV, that is one station. You can imagine what is happening in this country. So mine then is to analyze and say, Makueni County has 50% GBV recorded cases. This is the centers they have in terms of addressing the same. They have a policy at the county government, at the county level.
Yeah.
But the question then is, where is the missing dot? In my going round, I visited about 3 counties. I've actually realized everybody is doing their own thing. The government is trying to put a Polycare, the police are trying to put a gender desk, all this being coordinated maybe from the ministry level. They have a rescue center which is not properly furnished. The rescue center is kilometers away. Nobody knows of its existence. It is also addressing many other issues. We do not have enough personnel to deal with victims. So I can already tell you where the gaps are. That is where now my advisory comes in. And then we look at the whole program and say, for us to achieve this, we must do this. For us to connect the dot from the time a crime occurs to how we finish that crime and how we integrate these victims back into the society, then becomes very important.
So as you look at all of these things, when you look at women's rights, it touches on so many other things. Even if you're just going to focus on gender-based violence, that alone,
it's humongous.
It's huge. But then we're adding so many other things to it as well. There's teen pregnancy, like you mentioned. There's FGM. There's women's rights in governance and administration and leadership. I mean, education, finance, capital, all kinds of things that will fall under the ambit of women's rights. As you monitor all of these things then, how then does your office work to make sure that some of these wheels begin to turn? One of the things you mentioned just now, Makueni County, Machakos County, Kisumu County, Garissa County, everybody is trying to do their own thing then when it comes to this. How then will you work to then be able to coordinate and then advise on what ought to be done? That's part of that. Looking at one other thing that you mentioned, for example, then how does it coordinate with other things that are running concurrently? You talked about mental health, a big thing that also shadows on women's rights. How then will we go from a monitoring perspective to now an implementation when we're seeing some of these things streamlined?
All right. One of the things I'll tell you for sure, we are actually putting in place a strategic plan in place for performance. We have been able to map out all these issues, and we've also seen which line ministry should take what angle in terms of ensuring these deliverables. So from my office, I can be able to tell for GBV, this is what we want to do. In the next 4 years, we must have achieved 1, 2, 3 things. If we achieve 1, 2, 3 things, we'll have reduced GBV by this level. So number one, data. We have partnered with Data 2X. They've even given us an officer who is now running data to ensure that the data that we now have on reported cases is apt, because we are all using old data to try and solve these issues. So then you'll realize my office, in terms of data, we have to partner with Kenya Bureau of Statistics. Data 2X has come on board, and we are saying we are going to have live data so that we can be able to do proper monitoring.
How do you collect this data? How does Data 2X get the information?
Well, they have they work very closely with the Kenya National Data. It's called
Bureau of Statistics.
The Kenya Bureau of Statistics. They work very closely with them, and then they have their officers on the ground so that whatever data they collect is actually viable data. So we have a program that we've actually.
Are they also working with the police?
Sorry?
Are they working with the police?
Oh yes, it has to be wholesome. Yeah. So they are running that program, and we've just started it. So you'll see in the next 6 months we should be able to release a good report in terms of, and with that then we can move and action. When you look at the police and how they handle victims of gender-based violence, are they properly trained to receive these victims? When you look at the hospitals, and one of the key things I've noted, hospitals have really improved through the Linda Mama program. I was in Mkuru slums and I took note, they've actually enhanced their gadgets on collection of evidence. So then we are saying, this cycle, can it then be interconnected so that by the time a victim comes, she or he is properly taken through the taking of the what is it called? The reporting to the police, the taking of the evidence, the storing of that evidence and data, and then the person is taken through proper treatment. And having gone through proper treatment, the person is cancelled, and having been cancelled, the victim can also be trained on 1 or 2 economic activities so that they don't have to go back into the hands of violence, because most of them, they come in and after 1 or 2 days they say, no, I'm better off going back.
There's a program called Polycare, launched by the police, and this was also looking at addressing all that, having a one-stop shop sort of between the police, the health facilities. So when a victim of GBV reports to the police, this is how they are handled, how they are taken through medical examination, how the police medical examiner also comes on board and is able to collect the evidence at that point, because they're the ones who are going to be relied on in case of going to court. Is that part of what you're talking about?
Oh, yes. And that is why I'm saying everybody is having a piecemeal approach on how to deal with these issues. So you find all the interventions are scattered. The police are doing this, the ministry is doing this, the county government is doing this, the women reps are doing this. So we are then saying, let us put all these things under one center. You see, under Polycare, when it was launched, judiciary was part of it.
Yep.
You've seen now judiciary have gone ahead to start the GBV courts.
Okay.
But again, we are saying these GBV courts, how far are they from the Polycare center? How far are they from the hospital? How far? So that wheel needs to be interconnected so that the police are not very far from the rescue centers. The rescue centers are not very far from the courts. So that is why I'm saying my work then is to bring all these people together, to ensure that all these people now are working together, so that
It sounds like already they're working together.
Yes.
Because the police, the judiciary, the health facilities are all interconnected through Polycare, are they not? So who else now needs to come on board here?
First, you'll realize that Polycare Center, when it was started, the lady who started Polycare Center, and my office has been having a conversation with her, she actually was very impressed, and she says, when the blueprint of Polycare was put in place, and the one center that is already in place, it doesn't have all those facilities in one place. And the reason is this budget is sitting with different people. Yeah.
Okay.
So if these different people can come on this table and say, in this budget, we have 60 million that needs to build this, another one, this, then let's put our heads together and have this center, let's say, in a 10-acre piece of land. And that 10-acre piece of land, it must be able to sustain itself. Because in Mukuru here, when we went to one of the rescue centers, they could not afford food for these people. So you've rescued victims, you are putting them in a home, they are staying there, they don't know where to go, there's an issue of security, you can't even feed them because you're waiting for the central government to give you food. And maybe the food you're talking about is a bag of maize and a bag of beans. So we are saying, can these centers then be self-sustaining?
Okay.
What is the...
Currently,
Yes.
just with that note,
Yeah.
currently which budget line should be supporting that particular rescue center? Is it the police budget line? Is it the judiciary fund? Is it a fund from the Ministry of Gender, the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action? Or is it your desk?
That is why I'm telling you, it is very important to have these people seated at the table, right? And then the police say, for me to be able to run a sustainable police care center, this is the much I need, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ministry will say, our component on GBV is capacity building, isn't it? My budget for capacity building is this, right?
Right.
The county governments will say, women reps, they are the ones who've been building the rescue centers, isn't it? They will say, in my county, the budget for putting up this structure, my ideal structure must look like this, isn't it? And this is my budget. Ministry of Health will say, for us to be able to run a proper health facility with all the personnel that we need, this is how much we need, isn't it? As we speak, all that is sitting with different pockets. And that's why I'm saying, if all these people come on this table and say, this is what we want, and then they move together and source for the funding, it will work better.
Why haven't they come together?
But that's why we are here. That is why we are saying.
That's what I'm asking. So you are here now to bring them together.
Exactly.
They did not need a new office to be created to bring them together. They are all government ministries. Do they really need an office to be created so that the office can convene them?
Well, what I've given you is my idea of what needs to be done.
And I'm asking why they haven't. When you ask them, why haven't you been able to do this? Is it the lack of leadership? Is it lack of ownership? Because there must be something that you're coming to solve that was non-existent.
Well, there's one thing I've heard everybody say is over time, that a budget follows functions, isn't it?
Yes.
That is a government saying. But now we are saying we are not going to work in silos anymore. But the question then is, how do we ensure that we intertwine our strategic plans, our budget allocations, so that we can meet the one objective that we are all working towards? Ideally, you'll find that it's all about leadership. It's all about, the president has said, I want you people to work as a team. And for me to ensure that this is happening, I want to have proper reporting structures. I want synergy. I want us to get out of the silos kind of work for us to ensure that we are delivering as one.
Yeah.
You don't need someone to do that, but you actually need someone to ensure that it is happening.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's
you have to have
a chief
someone.
cabinet secretary.
Yes.
Who's been given the job of coordinating all those things.
Yes. And
Let's take a break. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Let's take a break, Harriet.
Yeah.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
City.
Yes,
She has a lot on her plate.
she does. And it more or less, if you take what Harriet does at surface level, it looks like she's duplicating what other people are doing. But I'm reminded of the discipline of medicine, and how you have specialists, then you have subspecialists, and we've got to a point where you have subspecialists, meaning there's somebody who deals with, he's an expert on hearts, heart diseases. There'll be somebody who's an expert not just on hearts, but on the ventricles and the veins, but it's still the heart. So this is what I get. So when you look at all these ministries, at some level, there will be issues that ministries touch on or work on with regards to women. But that's not a speciality. It's like a general practice. Now, hers is a speciality, women. So whatever else everybody else touches on, indeed you ask the question, we have chief cabinet secretary who's supposed to coalesce all these people. Yes, again, it's general. Specifically, somebody who now deals with just issues pertaining to women. Now, that's my understanding of what Harriet is saying. So I have to ask the question, two-pronged, question 1A and 1B. 1A, when you look at the plans that you have in place, what is it that you actually want to achieve at the end of your tenure? That's question 1A. Question 1B, when you've achieved it, this success, what will it look like?
Good question. Let me start by saying, any leader must have advisors, right? Any good performing leader needs to have the wheels behind them to keep energizing or watering the well. You'll be surprised, I also have advisors, right? You'll find we also have the Ministry of Defense, but the president has Monica Juma to advise him on matters security. What then are we doing? We are going beyond policy. We are diving deep to get the understanding of the issues and see how well can we backstop all these people within this player. So for me, one deliverable that I must is the 2/3 gender principle. Parliament must be balanced. And you've seen the discussions are ongoing. It was part of the promise. And we are saying in this success plan for this presidency, there's one thing on women leadership and governance that we must achieve, and it's the 2/3. And it's because we have done our analysis and we have seen in the next 15 years or 20, the gender balance will tilt. There's a high possibility it will tilt. And it's because we've also noted all professions who are now graduating from that, all those skill sets, women are actually taking the lead by 60 to 75%. I've just talked about sodomy here. When we talk about GBV, our imagination is women. In fact, in most cases, everybody will say, hii mambo ya wanawake hatutaki, achana nayo. Why? It is because our minds have been shaped from the time we were young to think like that. Our cultural norms and our cultural issues. But now we are saying we have to now inculcate the spirit of togetherness, equality, so that everybody now understands these issues are not just affecting women. And if we don't address them, and if we continue looking at them like women issues, we are going to lose the society, you know. So achievement number 1 is that. Achievement number 2, I'll be very, very, very happy to see so many women who have been financially empowered. And we'll talk about certain communities. And, you know, one of my male colleagues jokes and tells me, you know, Harriet, this office of yours is a no-brainer because the president now will get to hear what our communities say. From my community, a woman is like this item. Yeah, and he gave a good example and told me, matters women are like an item. That is why if we are going for campaign, you take, within the setup, you must have a virgin girl as a symbol of success. And when the virgin girl is not there, you put a stone, either in the car or in the meeting, or that is how we've been cultured, you know? And we are saying some of these cultural norms, we now need to start addressing them. How do we do that? We must start now training them and making everyone now start understanding that women issues, if we don't address them, are affecting the economy. They're affecting the children once they get pregnant. Within our society, you get pregnant, you're ripe for marriage. Nobody wants to spend any more money on you in the village setup to go back to school. They actually say, now you're a woman. Nenda ukaolewe. So those are the things, if we manage to achieve that, for me, I'll be very, very, very happy. And also, the other achievement I would wish to do is to have this office completely sitting within the presidency so that it doesn't go away. Because
Which office?
The Women Rights Agency.
Okay.
We have to settle it in there so that these issues are addressed firsthand. We don't have to wait for budget allocations. We don't have to wait because there's a process. Government is a whole big wheel. But the moment you can quickly do a paper to His Excellency and say, this needs to be addressed before the next cabinet meeting, or this needs to be addressed, and the right persons to do is XYZ. On this one, we've had discussions with this team, and for us to cure this thing at a very fast rate, we need to do XYZ.
Right.
So
I'm looking at what you're saying. I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, okay, let's say this 2/3 gender rule, let's say it is achieved. We actually arrive at a point where it has been met.
yes.
Beyond fulfilling a constitutional requirement, then what? What will the 2/3 gender rule actually achieve? We've got it. It's there. We have it. The outcomes of it. How will it reflect on what we consider to be necessary and needful within the country?
Well, I will tell you, a society that leaves half of its population out of decision-making table is actually leaving out half of its potential. Yeah? There are certain values or value that women also bring in that decision-making table. And if we can have as many representation of this of women within these leadership spaces, and that is from Parliament, Senate, trickle it down to state agencies, even trickle it down to institutions, you'll see there's a good balance in terms of how decisions are made, how work is done. There's that balance, the societal balance that we must create. And I'll use a good example. When I used to go home when my mother was still alive, we'd call our dad and we'd say, okay, Dad, we're on our way. We are coming home. And the first thing he'll say, hakuna mtu nyumbani. You know? Hakuna mtu nyumbani. What he truly meant was, your mom is not in at the moment. So even those workers who are there, according to him, he didn't feel they will welcome the guests the way the woman, who is the wife, our mother, would do. So it then means there was that balance that nature accepts, that this society has to be balanced. Kama huyu hayuko, there's something that is still missing. So for me, I look at it from that point of view. It is a balance that we need to achieve.
Why I ask the question is because you mentioned that if you are looking at simple outcomes, educational outcomes and things around it, that balance is going to tilt, not likely to, it is going to tilt in favor of women in the not too distant future.
Yes.
So when that happens, then what?
It's the men who will need their numbers to be topped up in parliament.
But are we then saying that society will lose out because the numbers of men will have gone down, and yet, as we also say, men have been at the helm for the longest possible time?
Well,
Will a balance have been created then, or will we have a situation where now we, should we say the shoe is on the other foot?
well, look at the studies that have been done recently. COVID-19, let's not go very far. There's an element of performance. There's an element of embracing the work that you have. There's an element of delivery. There's an element of concentration. The society also has very high expectations on men, right? And you find that even the men in leadership, the balance when it comes to their deliverable margins is so huge. All the villagers are lining up on your door.
Are you saying it's not huge on women?
It is, but I'm trying to create the distinction where research has actually stated that women in leadership tend to perform better. Why? You concentrate on one line and deliver, isn't it? The expectations also are too high, but when it comes to delivery, what do women do different? That they need to merge with the efforts that the men have already put in place to be able to deliver, or for them to deliver at par or at balance. We can use examples. Didi Nyoro is a performing MP. We'll use him as a good example.
Who?
Didi Nyoro. When you go to his...
Dendi Nyoro, the
Dendi
MP for
Nyoro,
Kiharu
the MP for
constituency,
Kiharu.
the chairman
He
of the
has
budget.
styled-
This gentleman who's always in the papers?
Yes.
Okay.
He has styled all the schools to be able to deal with jiggers. Right?
Yeah.
That is a good example that if we all emulate, we'll be able to deal with jiggers, because everybody now is doing a jiggers campaign. You're always in the village washing feet. But we are saying these kids are getting these jiggers. Why? They don't have shoes. The soil in the region harbors jiggers. And then where they sit from morning to evening, it's the same soil. So we need to... So he has addressed that. Now, can we eliminate, pick that and deliver in other constituencies? Other constituency, I've seen another MP has decided his CDF will go towards bursaries. The need analysis. What are women reps doing? They're doing sanitary towels in schools, which is very important. The dignity packs for kids. You see, there's a balance. While men are thinking big construction, women are actually going and saying, these children actually, there's something called dignity that they are missing. Can we address these issues? You understand?
I like your reference to
so there's
studies.
a balance.
Yes.
There's a balance that we must always have in the society.
I accept the balance.
Yeah.
The expectations that society has on men, I don't know, maybe we have read different studies, but my understanding is that the expectations that women are burdened with is higher. For a woman to be able to achieve anything in the workplace, a lot
They
more
work 10 times
yes,
more.
a lot more is demanded of them than would be their male counterparts. The expectations are actually higher. They are judged harsher.
And I'll explain why. I said the gender issues in this country are cultural. Why do I say that? Historically, women were supposed to stay at home. Women were supposed to take care of children. I've just used one example of one of the communities which make women look like items on the table. There's a community women are referred as children. There's a community women are no different from the goats and sheep in the den. When you come and say, hi, how is family? They're all good. Even my cows are well. So the children are not even spoken about. So these issues are cultural. So a woman for a very long time has been looked as very weak. And all these issues, it's the man who was supposed to work, it's the man who was supposed to hold leadership positions, it's the man who's supposed to be a manager. In one of the organizations I worked, I was the one-woman manager for a long time before we brought other women to sit on the same decision-making table. And I'm happy to report that that same organization right now, one of the women we employed during my time is going to be the CEO. So women are capable. It's only that they have to work extra hard, because our cultural norms does not see women as persons who are capable to work and deliver. So for the woman to be able to be seen, to be understood, it's like you have to work 10 times more. But I'm happy because institutions now are changing and they're embracing the women's space. For instance, we've had silent policies. I don't know whether it's still there, but you'll get some corporations will not employ women of a certain age into top management positions. Why? They are within the bracket of childbearing. And that is why institutions like Safaricom, when they started their it's called the creche. It was such a good thing because it was telling everybody you can still have a child and work. All the women need is the comfort that their children are okay. They are somewhere, they are playing, and there's someone managing and handling the children. So it's cultural, it's the society, it is how we have been brought up to believe. Even some women don't, for a long time, they would not believe that they can do it until someone comes and tells you know what, you can actually do this.
I have to ask you, one of the things you talked about is that you hope that this agency then will be then domiciled in the presidency.
Oh, yes.
The reason for that, one would assume, is so that even as then your advisory role to the president plays out, that the presidency can then make a decision and say, look, we will do a number of things, make declarations, put funding behind some of these things that are absolutely necessary, take the advice that you give in terms of moving this thing. So are we saying essentially that your office would then be the implementation arm of some of these things that we've been seeing kind of just rolling over without actually finding a home in terms of getting done? So are we saying that your office then would implement some of these things because you would have the ear of the president?
First, let me say the beauty about our president is that first, he has the listening ear. Second, he takes action. Third, he participates. So he's not someone who'll say, leave it. In fact, he goes even an extra mile to provide a solution, to help you find the right place that these issues should be settled in, especially if it's a new emerging issue. The president is so good that he can even find funders for you. He'll actually call someone and say, there's this activity we need you to work on together with this person. Do the interconnection, direct you plus the ministry that this thing has to be done. Then you put time frames and ensure that the same thing is done. You'll realize we have structures already. The government has structures up to the grassroots. We even have Nyumba Kumi. And that's why I'm saying, why are we not having these things moving? Maybe it's government bureaucracy.
So will your office be the implementer of this?
We have different offices that do implementation. For instance, if it's anything to do with the police must implement. If it's anything to do with the judiciary must implement. If it's anything to do with the Ministry of Public Service and Gender, the ministry will do that.
So the agency
If
will
it's
be
labor,
a coordinator, an advisor?
basically coordination. I do a lot of coordination, advisory, policy. We also do analysis of laws to see where are the gaps in those laws. We advise, and it's taken to the right ministry to do the actual work. And that is why you're seeing even bills right now have been centralized in the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office. We actually have a PS in charge of parliamentary affairs. That means for a long time, drafting of bills was being done by the AG. We also have Kenya Law Reforms who also draft bills, but those bills were sitting everywhere. Anyone could produce the bill and go with it. But now we are saying they have to be centralized. So that is the current government coordination that we are looking at. And truth be told, all these teams work together. If it's a policy on changing on laws, you'll find the PS parliamentary affairs has to be seated on those discussions. If you find it's something to do with drafting of laws, CEO Kenya Law Reforms, AG, Senate, Parliament, representatives must sit. If it's any issues to do with labor rights, the Ministry of Labor has to sit. I have to be there. That is the synergy that we need to have, so that even the advisory going to the president is not anywhere far from what these other ministries are doing. So we backstop each other.
What advisory has your office given to the president with regards to balancing appointments and women being appointed to? So cabinet, not many. PSs, not many. CISs. Have you advised the president to make sure at least there's balance, at least 30% this time for this one?
And hopefully youth.
In fact, interesting enough, I'll tell you of youth. I was talking to someone in parliament the other day, and they told me, but we were youth. I was 28 when I became an MP. What is this entitlement that we want to? But I said, but you need to have inclusion. You need to include everybody. But having said that, yes, you can be assured that His Excellency, even before he's advised, he's very sure of what needs to be done. So the president is always well advised, number one. But we also need to be alive to the fact that the political divides has a lot of play. There's a lot of investments when it comes to politics, and he must balance the interests of all those political bigwigs, players around him. First, I must say it is a big plus for women this time around, because it is the first government that we have so many women in senior positions. And even if we lost in one, we are actually asking for more in the others. And you've seen current board appointments, it's now balanced. And now we are saying we will not balance going down, we will balance going up. And we are hoping in the next reshuffle and the next offices that will come, we will have women taking lead. And
so we'll be watching.
When
he appoints the CISs, we'll be watching how many women he'll actually have this time. Harriet Chiggai, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And let's keep these conversations going on.
Indeed.
They are healthy conversations.
Harriet is the president's advisor on women rights.